I'm honored to be elected as president. I have an agenda that we have discussed with Mike, that we want to develop the culture of the institute members, cross-breeding business amongst each other. We've got a testimonial here of my initiation a few months ago with Mark. But the institute's digital campaign that we have, and Mike's been very successful in starting, is going to be enhanced more and more, and we are going to develop this online learning culture even more. In my view, that is the only realistic way to reach that surveyor who is really in the corner of the world, maybe on an island, maybe on a very obscure small port, but is competent and professional. It's that surveyor who needs the institute, and the industry needs to know that professional, where usually a ship goes and you find it very difficult to put a finger on somebody professional. I don't want to name any countries or any areas, but there are enough that you and I know, and we want to bring those areas to the industry. In my view, at least an endeavor will be made to reach out to those people via the digital media, via the institute and Mike's and our effort, and hopefully we will be able to get somewhere. But in big cities like Singapore, it's lovely to see a room full. It's not practical to take these conferences down to a smaller area where you have lesser members, but the idea is to involve them, to indulge them, to have them with us, and that's few of our main agendas: to grow the institute and its value to the clientele who use surveyors worldwide. Welcome to Singapore. Enjoy the conference. I'm sure Mike will tell you a little bit more about what we do at the institute and how we create value for you as members. And those who are not members, I encourage you all to sign up. There was a convincing person who spoke to me about becoming an IIMS member way back in 2005, and as a result, I'm here today, standing in front of you, very proud. This is my profession. This is what I've indulged in for all my landlubber years after I quit sailing in 2004, and I'm very obliged and honored to be your new president. Welcome and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Surya. I sprung that on him 5 minutes ago. He had no warning, by the way, so thank you, Surya. Surya's right. I would like to talk about the IIMS. I don't get many opportunities to talk publicly to groups of people about the Institute. Whenever I do, I'm always surprised because people come up and say, gosh, we didn't know you did so much. And that's fine. It's about engagement. It's about how people engage with us as an organisation. Some of our members are very, very engaged. Others perhaps less so, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But it is a great opportunity to be here and talk to people. So what I've decided to do, the presentation I'm going to give, is a remake of a presentation I gave at the AGM when Surya was inducted as president about 6 weeks ago. I've slightly tweaked it, but it goes into a bit more depth about the Institute, some of the things that we do that you perhaps didn't know we did, and I think that's all helpful. I hope it's helpful only to build up a big picture of how we operate, who our stakeholders are, who we engage with, who we lobby. There's lots of things that go on behind the scenes. So I'd like to try and, if I can, just take a moment to do that over the next sort of 50 minutes. And my presentation doesn't want to work, which is a good start, isn't it? Those of you here yesterday, same housekeeping rules if we may. No planned fire alarms today, so if you hear the fire alarm go off, please follow the exit signs and head out of the building. Please set your mobile phones to silent. Seminar packs, we should all have a seminar pack now. If you haven't, then Janet will have one for you. By the way, if you want to comment at any point, ask questions, please do, but please use a microphone. We have some online delegates today. Last time we were here, we didn't stream the conference, but we did stream it yesterday. We had about 7 or 8 people online yesterday. and we've got a similar number today. So just so that they can hear you when you speak, if you talk to the microphone, it comes through the sound system, they'll be able to hear. Food and beverages, same arrangements as yesterday. Your tea and coffee is outside there. We'll take a break at 10:30. And then lunch is taken downstairs opposite the main entrance to the hotel, opposite reception there. It's called the Restaurant 65. We have a table in there, and the food fair was very good yesterday. I'm sure it'll be the same today. So good morning to the online delegates. Just give them a quick wave. You're most welcome. We will record all the presentations today. We will send the presentations back by video format once the conference is over to all of you today. So if you miss anything today, it'll be there on the record for you. Once again, Simon, if I can just reference you, thank you very much for your generous support of the conference over the last 3 days. It's very much appreciated. And Janet stepped out of the room, but thank you for providing Janet, who's been a marvellous hostess for us as she's stepping back into the room. Janet, thank you very much for what you've done. It's much appreciated. Just a few opening remarks. That's where we work from. This is a building between Southampton and Portsmouth on the south coast of the UK in a little village called Porchester. I always like to tell a little bit of a story about it because it's a very, very old building. It was originally called Murrell's Farm, and it dates back to 1700 and something. And we don't have the bottom part, we have the top part of the building, which we rent. More about that shortly. And I'm told we have a ghost in the building. So I don't believe in ghosts, but one or two of my colleagues say they have seen an old lady wandering around the stairs at night. So you can make what you want of that, but we have a ghost. 2018, I was just chatting briefly to Luke, has been a really, really challenging year for us. And in business, sometimes things come at you from an unexpected angle, and you're challenged, and you have to make decisions. And sometimes you make the wrong decisions, sometimes you make the right decisions. But what you can't do is make no decision. And this year, early on, can't say too much about it, but we were one of the code or the codings that we do is for the Trip Around the World Grace Fleet, which some of you may or may not know about. They completed their 40,000 around the world voyage last weekend. Actually, came back to Liverpool. There was a death, sadly, back in November, and one of the crew went overboard and was lost. His clip failed on his safety harness, and I knew as soon as I saw it on the news that we would be hearing from the NIB and the MCA. Indeed, we did. And that wrapped me up in a lot of quite unpleasant red tape for 6 or 8 weeks when we faced investigations as the certifying authority. We're not the first certifying authority to have this happen. Obviously, when there's an accident with a coded vessel, you have to get involved, and it was serious. There's no blame to IIMS, but nevertheless, due diligence and all of that, the MCA and the NIB have to take it seriously. You'll be able to read the report soon. I think it's coming up for consultation. That was one thing that threw me off course. The other thing that threw me off course, and again I'll touch on a little bit later, is removing a member for disciplinary reasons. I've never had to do that before. And again, I can't name the individual. I don't want to go into too much of the detail. Suffice to say that he was not conforming with the code of conduct that is published in IIMS. Had a couple of disciplinary hearings before, and what we've tended to do is to downgrade a membership. So we might downgrade somebody from a full member to maybe an associate member for a period of 1 year or 2 years, and then invite them to reapply. In this case, it was so serious, and it had gone on for a number of months, and there were a number of complaints that come to me from voting public in the UK who had to take action. And I think it's important for you, our members, to know that we're not a toothless organisation. When we need to take that type of decision, then we will take it. But there's a downside of all of this. It probably ate up 120 hours of my time, conservatively. I got involved in some legal wranglings with the member who thought he was being treated unfairly, although we had followed the code of conduct that we, or the procedure that we set out very, very closely. We didn't think we had. The then President, Adam Branch, had to get involved. It was incredibly messy. It became apparent that there was one thing missing in our procedures, and that was the ability to suspend a member. So as a members organisation, clearly the members have to have a say on that, and I took that as a motion to the AGM 6 weeks ago, and we made a change to the rules, but I'll come on to that shortly. So it's been a challenging year, but that's fine. When you do these things, when you run an organisation such as this, things never go as you might envisage. It's fine. Business is financially sound. Over the last 4 years, we've made very significant progress in repairing the institute, which was in a bad state financially. We are now in a decent state, and I'm pleased to say making a small profit as well, which is important because you can't run a business without making any profit. I'll touch on some of the progress we've made. We're moving into yet more, as Zaria says, innovative areas. Some more new technology coming with another app that we're working on. We released one yesterday, which was the eCMID CPD app, as you would have known if you were here yesterday. We're working on another app. So there's a lot happening technology-wise, and new projects and opportunities looming. I'm going to touch on those too. So those are my opening remarks. Not often you get to see the head office team. I thought it might be quite nice just to show you. Many of you will know Camilla, who is the membership secretary. She's our first port of call for members generally. She's been with us now 18 months. She had such a good year with us that I promoted her to office manager. That was done in January of this year. Tanya runs our certifying authority, been with us now 4 years. Catherine Ward, her proud dad is sitting in the audience, Simon. Catherine joined us, completely coincidental actually. Catherine joined us in September of last year and is running our education program. Craig has been the longest standing of the organisation now. Craig is our in-house graphic designer, and everything you see that we put out from a marketing point of view, Craig has done. I think he's absolutely brilliant. I give him a brief, he interprets it perfectly each and every time. He produces the report magazine, he produces monthly news bulletins. All of our marketing collateral is Craig's responsibility. I think he's been there now 7 years. Dave joined us about just over a year ago. If you send an email to info@iims.org.uk, Dave is the guy who will be dealing with that and answering it in the mail. He also supports Tanya with certifying authority work. Dave gets involved in doing a lot of the tonnage work we do. We are an approved tonnage certification organisation as well. So we do a lot of tonnages. Jen is our most recent recruit. Some of you will remember Vicky Lawrence, who was the financial controller with IIMS for a long time. 12 years she left. Kate Davey replaced her. Kate had a very short stay with us of 9 months and left for personal reasons. So Jen has just taken up the role as management accountant. I wish her well. Nellie Bryant is her assistant, so you may well encounter those. If you don't pay your bill, then you'll be hearing from Jen. Just some of the more internal head office matters I thought might be useful to share with members. We took a decision at the AGM to purchase a property outright. That's quite a big deal for us. So I showed you Marl's house. It is lovely, it's beautiful, it's a great place to do business, but it's rented. And we have another 2 years on our lease there. And we put it to the membership that to underpin the future financial status of the organisation, we should look to buy some property. Buying property in the UK is still a really good thing to do. It appreciates in value. Mortgage rates are incredibly low at the moment and have been for a number of years in the UK. There's no suggestion that's going to change, particularly anytime soon. So we have started a rainy day fund so that we can generate some income for that. And one or two people always say, well, come and buy a brick. So we're probably going to offer some engraved bricks if people would like to do that. Who'd like to be part of that. So can we find somewhere at the right price in the right location? I don't know. I'm doing a soft search already. We're looking for properties. We're quite specific in what we want. I would like to have somewhere that we can build a 50-seat training facility within. You know, we currently go out, we go and rent hotel space such as we do here, but it'd be great if we could have something within our own facility in the UK where it could host 50 people. And also I have to think about the staff as well. We don't want to move 100 kilometres away because that's not good for anybody. So we need to find somewhere between Southampton and Portsmouth. Not easy, but that's the challenge. ICD database. We undertook this as a project a year ago now. We use something that is really antiquated called ACT. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of ACT. It's, in fact, I fell out of love with ACT in 2000. That's how long ago it was. And when I arrived at IIMS, we were using ACT. We've moved to something, ICD is an internal name, it's an IIMS central database. It's run through something called Zoho Creator, if any of you have come across that as a platform. It's a drag and drop database building tool. We've had it professionally built for us. We are starting to move towards the final phase now. You could say, well, it's a database, but for us, our business is quite complicated. And we need a database that actually does what we want. So, for example, I introduced you to Tanya a minute ago. Tanya keeps a manual list of every month of whose vessels are coming up for annual renewal certificates. She sends them an email. All of that will become automated under the new ICD system. It's going to free up a lot of time, make us much more productive. I suspect we might be going live with that probably October. One of the big issues we face in the UK is GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations. In fact, it's a European-wide directive. And if you're not familiar with it, you could say, why does it matter when you're out in Singapore? But as I understand it, if you're in Singapore and you deal with organisations within the EU, you need to be compliant with GDPR. So it is a worldwide, or it's affecting people worldwide. It's wrapped us up in a fair amount of red tape. It took us 6 months to become compliant. Both of the organisations are now compliant. We outsourced our human resources. Again, you're not specialists in these things, then find someone who is. And that was a good decision we made last year. And HR, certainly in the UK, is pretty complex. It's probably the same around the world, but there's things you can and can't do with employees. So I'd much rather we had professionals doing that for us, and it was a good decision. Touched on Jen, I've touched on Cam. We're undertaking quite a lot of corporate compliance work. Again, it's not something we talk a great deal about, but I think it's relevant that members know. I'm quite keen to bring some new blood onto the management board. Zuri's just a baby, you know, and we've got people on the board now who are mid-70s. John Killens, who's 78, who's just stood down. So I would certainly like to find another couple of people who would used to be stepping up and working on the management board. What does that mean? It means 4 meetings a year. You don't necessarily have to be in the UK. We have 1 or 2 members who join us remotely using the Zoom technology. So if you're interested in that type of work, it'd be pleased to hear from you. And if you're in your 60s, then you can sleep longer than you've already got. So nice young people. Recently, James Wren from America's joined the board. So you might know James. Very active guy for us over there, does a lot of work. But even he's in his, I think, late 60s. So we had to do some succession planning on MSA as well. We have 1 director, Paul Homer, who some of you might know. Paul's been around the organisation for a long time. He was chairman of Standards Administration. He's still chairman of Standards, but he's no longer a board member of IIMS. He is, however, the only director on MSA. And Paul told me of his intention to retire probably in the next year to 18 months. So we took the decision. Hilary and I have both stepped up to executive directors of MSA, not a director of IIMS, but Hilary and I are directors of MSA. So that provides the continuity going forward. And I would also just say, talking about this area as well, if you're interested to work on any of the other committees we have, the Professional Assessment Committee is another one. We've got a dozen people all over the world doing that work. I'd like to hear from you. Education as well. We have in fact, we worked out the average age of the Education Committee was 75 and a half, I think it was. It's just getting too old, so we need to bring some young blood in. Don't be shy and step forward. Just a little bit on the membership update. So yesterday, we're just a few short of 1,000 now. We're still growing steadily all over the world. I mean, applications come in literally from all over the world. We've had quite a lot of retirees, and sadly had a few deaths actually. We've been perhaps half a dozen deaths in the last few months. And of course, there's a normal churn. We have about a 4% churn each year of members. Full members, highest level ever, around 600, in fact 602 the last time I looked. So full membership category is growing quite strongly, but our strongest area is the technician category. That's where we've seen the strongest growth. And that's largely really because of the work we've done with ECMID, the RMCI standard, which I'll touch on again briefly. And those have been good routes of new membership for us. We undertook a program to look at the affiliates. We have about 60 affiliates in the organisation. Affiliate for us is really very much the stepping stone to a higher membership. When Cam and I looked at this a few months ago, it was apparent that there are people who've been affiliates for, in my opinion, far too long. 3, 4, 5, 6 years in one case. So we've gone back to those affiliates and said, you really need to now be thinking about upgrading the membership. And quite a lot have already decided to do that, so I think that's progressive. Somebody said to me the other day, well, how do you get new members? It's worth just touching on a little bit of the marketing we do. In days of yore, we used to put full-page adverts in magazines at £4,000 or £5,000 a page and get 2 or 3 applications from it. It's really not an effective way of doing it. All of our marketing and promotion now is done below the line. It's targeted advertising. We use an agency called Vertical Leap. who are based quite close by us, and they are specialists in doing this type of work. So what I said to them is we need to target people by job title, so the title Master Mariner, naval architect, those sort of things, mechanical engineer are titles that are of interest to us. We started this program, I think, back in November. We agree a monthly budget with them, and I have to say we now get 60, 70, 80 applications a month. Well, they're not applications, they're expressions of interest for more details. So they go onto the website, they download the information brochure. That's become quite a good source of new member response. And it's the same, exactly the same with the education program. It's all targeted now. It's a very, very efficient way of doing it. I touched on the Professional Assessment Committee, the PAC. These guys perform a really, really important role. We don't accept every application for membership within the organisation. And again, it's important that you know that. We're fussy, and we're becoming increasingly fussy. They've met twice in the last 6 months, 9 months. We've added 1 or 2 people onto that organisation. We're about a dozen strong now, all over the world. And when any application comes in, it's sent out to one of the PAC, sometimes to 2 of the PAC who might need a second opinion. Sometimes they will take references. We want to be absolutely sure that the person we're letting in has a level of competency. And particularly find when people tick boxes to say, yes, I can do this, I can do that, I'm really experienced at doing this and doing that. If we dig down into their CV and ask some questions, we find they're not really experienced at doing that. So when we apply a specialisation to a new member, again, it's important because we're publishing that on the website. We're saying to the wide world, this guy says he's really good at doing that. And if he isn't, then it comes back to us as goes onto this there. So it's very, very important. Some of the recommendations that have come out from the PAC, we have now taken into the organisation, and although they're not running the management board, they can influence the management board, and I'm grateful for the work they do because it's an unpaid role. CPD, we talked a lot about CPD yesterday, and Michelle, if you were here yesterday, we met, we gave a demonstration on the eCMID app, was very much responsible for developing this one. A little bit of history to this. Captain Ruchel Dial, some of you will know, based in Goa, approached me a couple of years ago and he said, I build apps. And I said, you're a marine surveyor. He said, yes, we've got a sideline business that builds apps. And he was building apps for people like Hilton Hotels worldwide, who are just extraordinary, based out of Goa. So I went down and I met him and his team, and Richard said, I would like to build an app for the organisation. I said, wonderful. I had absolutely no idea what we might do, but we thought about it, and CPD is an onerous task. Historically, we would, at the end of the year, send out an invitation to members to say, please send us in your CPD. People would send in a mountain of paper that big to us. Someone's then got to go through it all, check it, apply some points to it. Horrible job. Horrible for the member, horrible for the staff back at HQ. Miserable job. So we developed this. Those of you who've used it will know it's pretty simple and straightforward. I would encourage you to do it live today. You can claim 5 points today. Just open it up. It's a web-based version if you're not happy using it on a smartphone or an Android, or Apple or Android. And since launch, we've had over, actually the 2,200 is now 2,500 claims in what, just over a year. It's been fascinating. We do have a reject quite a lot. As I said yesterday, if you want to claim points and it's not obvious what you're claiming for, you must provide some evidence. If you go to a boat show, as we said yesterday, take a selfie of yourself at the boat show. Attach that on the app, it's really neat. And it's just transformed the whole way we work. However, still 45% of our members are not engaged with that app. So if you're sitting in the audience today thinking, I don't know what you're talking about, Mike, come have a chat with me because it's very, very simple to use. It's a really neat solution and it does work. Once you get your points for the year, we apply this to your entry on the website. It says to the outside world you are CPD compliant. I can't understand why people wouldn't want that badge. I'm not asking you to claim millions of points. You get 5 points for today, you're almost halfway there. So if you're not doing CPD, I'd urge you to do it. Part of my job I dislike most is this. It is the complaints and disciplinary. Partly because, for me, it's a lot of dead time. I feel there's more productive things I could be doing. You could say, well, hang on a minute, you actually need to deal with this. Absolutely need to deal with this. I get 20 to 25 complaints a year. Always generally from the UK, one or two from overseas, but generally the UK, generally from small craft boat owners who feel that a surveyor has wronged them in some way. And our first duty, where we can, is to try and protect that member. So two sides to every story, and there absolutely are two sides to every story. So the complaint comes in, I will ask to see a copy of the survey report, which the complainant sends me. That generally goes to Paul Homer. Paul will look at it for the technical content, we will assess it, we'll review it. We'll then go back to the complainant and say, fine, we think you've got a case to answer. No, you haven't. What I fail to understand, though, is what that complainant wants me to do at that point. They want me to say, no, he's a rotten surveyor, he's useless, he's hopeless, in which case they can then go to the court and say, oh, IIMS says he's an awful surveyor, and it's a dreadful surveyor, and I'm just not going to do that. So no way am I going to do that. So this is quite a challenging bit of business. I had a complaint last week. On the face of it, a really serious complaint. And it got personal because the complaint said, the surveyor is very fat. He was too fat to get into my boat, therefore how could he do a survey? Wow. I generally send the complaints to the surveyor and say, you need to respond to this. I didn't want to send that to the surveyor. He's fat, but he's not that fat. Anyway, the client wasn't there at the survey. He did the survey. He went into the boat, did the survey. But what wasn't apparent is that he'd done the survey for the owner of the vessel as it was then, who was doing an insurance survey. That survey had then been passed on to these people who wanted to buy the boat 1 year on from the date of the original insurance survey, which wasn't done for them. So where does the contract lie? The contract lies between the surveyor and the original boat owner. The new owners bought it on the basis of a survey that wasn't fit for purpose because it wasn't a pre-purchase survey, and then complained. Quite an easy one to deal with that one because they just kicked back and said, I'm sorry, you should have gone and got your own survey done from a surveyor. Can't rely on something else that someone did a year ago. It's not relevant. So that was an easy one to deal with, but some of them are far more challenging. So, as I've said here, each has to be investigated. You can't just kick it under the carpet. I've had one coming overnight again saying, I haven't heard from you. What are you doing about my complaint? Oh, it's only 4 days. Give me some time. But they don't. They want instant response. As I said, for the first time, we had to actually remove a member. And it was a painful process, and it was apparent that we didn't have, within our procedures, the right to suspend a member. So what the membership voted on was this: a member may be suspended at any time before or during the disciplinary procedure and process, pending the outcome of the formal disciplinary hearing. As I said to you, I can't say too much about the case that we went through, but the rather bizarre situation was we had 4 fellows of the organisation lined up for the disciplinary hearing. So that's the peer group, myself there to chair it, and the members are coming for the hearing. The day before the hearing, he fell on his sword and resigned. So, didn't actually accept his resignation. We held the hearing without him present. It was a bit odd, but we held the hearing without him present, and we chose to remove his application, expel him, rather than accept his resignation. So that sits on his record. Caused a lot of difficulty and hardship. It was the right thing to do. So it's important you know this goes on in the background. It's painful, but it's necessary. Touch briefly on our professional qualifications. We've done quite a lot of work behind the scenes to bring these right up to date. When you're educating people in something as complicated as marine surveying, you frankly need to be up to date with what you're delivering. A lot of the courses aren't. I'm not going to name names, but they're quite old. There's quite a lot of legislation change going on in the last couple of years. So we tend to withdraw a unit if it's not current, get it changed and amended, and then reissue it. Currently we've got, what have we got? 34 modules. It's split between small craft and commercial shipping. Slightly more modules on the commercial shipping end. Good course. It's equivalent to first year university standard, level 4, level 5. We had our strongest ever intake, about 30 students joined us last October, and we have a quarterly intake. Currently about 160 in the program. Just released something called Inland Waterways, not so big in Singapore, but Inland Waterways is really big in the UK. There's about 80,000 Inland Waterways craft running around for our surveying. It's a slightly different type of surveying, and we introduced that. It's been out of print for about 6 years, so it's good to have that back in the mold to be completely rewritten. Now, one of the key challenges, particularly maybe commercial ship, but also small craft. We deliver theory. What we don't deliver is practical. And I do get worried about people who complete the course and say, I'm a qualified marine surveyor, I've done the IIMS course. Are you qualified? No. What you've got is you've got a certain amount of theoretical knowledge, which gets you to a certain point. You then need to make that step into private practice. You need to find a mentor, maybe someone who can help you make that jump, because it's a big jump. One of the things we've been trying to do is to work out how we can put in a practical program or practical module. And for small craft, we found a way to do it. Much harder for commercial ship, but not impossible. So we're testing our first, it'll be a 2-week program being run out of Fox's Boatyard in Ipswich on the east coast of England. It's an 8-day program with 64 hours of hands-on, bucking hulls of boats, doing a practical survey with 2 very, very experienced marine surveyors who have run these courses now for 6 years. So I think it's a really positive step forward. So for a student who is engaged doing the yacht and small craft professional qualification, they can do this program now and they can claim it as one module of their 8. I think this is a big step forward. I've touched already on succession planning. One of the things Kath and I have quite enjoyed developing was actually making this a bit more interactive now. We have students all over the world, and after the January intake, Kath and I said, wouldn't it be great if we got someone online, a couple of tutors, had like a freshers conference. So come and join in. And we had, I think, 5 or 6 people. There was somebody from Vancouver, there was somebody from New Zealand, somebody from Thailand, 2 or 3 from Europe. And we had this sort of half-hour debate with them all, a discussion. And everybody said, this is wonderful. They were all exchanging email addresses. So that intake of students knits together and can grow over the 2 years of their course. We then thought we might extend that out, and for people who are doing a specific module, and the one that troubles people is naval architecture. Surprise, surprise. Module 3, one of the hardest modules of the lot. And the assessor and marker is always available, the tutor. It's always available, but a lot of people don't actually take advantage of that. So Catherine and I set up this opportunity for people doing Module 3 to come online and speak to Kerry, who's the tutor. And we said it's a half-hour slot, come and talk to Kerry, it's whatever time it was. And again, we had people from all over the world, about 6 or 7 people joined online. And I said to him, well, you're here for half an hour, talk to Kerry, ask him questions, develop a rapport with him. 2 hours, 45 minutes later, they're still talking. And I left and went to the corner because it went beyond my capability. It was such a successful session. So we're going to start rolling these out on a regular basis now. It's all part and parcel of trying to make these guys feel included, part of what we do, and help them develop. It might surprise you to know that 30% of people who join the program and pay us quite a lot of money never complete a single module. Give us that money and they never do anything. Well, that doesn't make me feel very good. I'm happy to take that money, but really not if they don't do anything. So it's all about encouraging people to engage with the program and stick with it. I did talk about CA yesterday. I don't want to talk too much about CA today again, but our fleet size, we've got about 300 vessels in code in the UK. You don't know how it works in the UK. If you are using a vessel up to 24 metres commercially, it must be certificated by law. And we are one of 5 or 6 certifying authorities in the UK. Nice bit of work to do, it's challenging. We have a seat at the MCA's certifying authority meeting every February, which is a technical meeting, and also an administrative meeting. We have a seat at that table. As I've touched on here, we were investigated by the MRB and the MCA. I have publicly recognised Fraser and John Heath, who helped me hugely to get through that investigation. It ended up with John Heath having to fly to Qingdao in China when the Clipper fleet put in there on their round the world voyage to look at the 11 remaining vessels and just to give them a health check. That was our insurance policy. That cost a lot of money to do, but it's necessary. One of the key challenges we do face, and it absolutely is a key challenge, is it's about levelling the playing field. So there are 5 or 6, as I've said, certifying authorities. We interpret things differently, and frankly, that's not right. So it means we set the bar here, the other organisation sets the bar there, the other one sets the bar there. We should all be playing together on the same playing field, particularly because we're all doing the same job. Safety of sea, lives, protecting lives at sea, we're all saying these boats are good to be coded and go to sea. We apply that standard, another organisation applies that standard, or vice versa. I think we're quite high. I think our level is high. For reasons that I won't discuss now, but we've raised the bar. I'm not sure others have. And one of the things I do, role I perform, I am the chairman of the Certifying Authority Professional Standards Working Group. Some of you have heard me talk about standards over the last year or two. Really, really important to me that we raise the standard of the work these guys do. And we are soon to put in some kind of scheme to look at all of the UK coding surveyors. I don't want to call it an accreditation scheme, it's just to give them a health check, to make sure if you're doing this kind of work at that level, you absolutely must be competent to do it, otherwise you should not be anywhere near a vessel doing a coding. We're audited by the MCA every year. That is a really painful day. We've just been audited and it was a really painful day. It never changes. I think with auditors, you will know, auditors come into the find fault and they nitpick. They really do. And some of the stuff was a bit nitpicky, but some of it was quite important. And no showstoppers, but again, it just keeps us in line and makes sure that we are doing what we say we're going to do. And we have to pass that audit or they can withdraw our contract. I've talked about one of the bits of the job I really hate. Here's a bit of the job I really love. Some of you know my background is in publishing. I was 30 years in publishing. I have great fun with the report magazine. It's a high spot each quarter. Zero is smiling, but he knows I love it. It does go from strength to strength. What I've found with this is if you don't read it, I think you're missing a trick. We've got some copies out there. Janet's put some copies out there for you. There's lots of back issues. Please take them away and read them. I don't want to have to take them back to the UK. What I find interesting now is, whereas when I first arrived at IIMS, we used to rely on user-generated content. In other words, surveyors would send in articles. Great. Some quarters we got quite a lot of information, some quarters we didn't have much. If you don't have much, you haven't got much to publish. So now I'm going out and I'm commissioning content for the publication. And that's been a really successful strategy. Lots of people are happy to write and enjoy writing for it. All of these articles you see here, you won't find those published anywhere else. That's unique to us. It's unique content for the report magazine. The one on the new red yacht code was fascinating. That's coming in on the 1st of January 2019. I didn't even know it had been signed off. And so I've been driving that one through the Red Ensign group. It's all to do with yachts over 24 metres, fascinating new regulations coming in. Got them to write exclusively for it. I know Zaria's touched on this before, but the safety briefings now, they're running to 6, 7, 8 pages sometimes in the magazine. The latest safety roundup from the last quarter, what's been happening. Don't need to be a member to read the report, it's freely available online. Don't print so many copies anymore. As I said, we brought a few here with us, but generally you can read it now as a PDF or in e-reader format. Sticking with some of the other communications and our social media output. For examples of news bulletins here, first of the month, out goes a news bulletin. I found there's so much to write about, not all of it IIMS news, industry news, lots of things just to put in there to keep members up to date with what's going on. That goes out through an emailer. You can click on the emailer to access the more detailed PDF. Got about a 50% open rate. That's a pretty good open rate actually on an email. But I suppose if I'm troubled, 50%, it's always the same 50% who open it every month, the same 50% who don't open it. So I'm conscious I'm not talking to 50% of the membership through this vehicle. But it is there, it is available, watch out for it. If you're not getting the opportunity to access it, then let me know. Website, we've just welcomed our 500,000th visitor in what, 2.5 years? So for an organisation with 1,000 members, I think that's quite an achievement. People spend a huge amount of time on the website. I don't know how much you guys know about website visitor traffic, probably not very much. But generally, people spend about 10 seconds on the website. And if you think when you're scouring the net, you scroll from one site to one site to one site looking for that information you want, you go through a site, you move on, you move on, you move on, until you find a site you like and you want. And people spend an average of about 1 minute 40 seconds on the IIMS website, and people are spending 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes reading some of the longer articles on there. So it's a sticky site, it's got a lot of traction. We're at over 1,200 news stories now on there. It's a fantastic resource. I can't think why anybody wouldn't go to the website periodically, not daily, not necessary. But we are loading content most days, and it's a great resource. Twitter, strange medium, Twitter. You say it every time I stand up and speak, it is a strange medium. It's a bit more frivolous, but we've built our followers now to 1,500. And the LinkedIn group, which is now becoming stronger and stronger and stronger, is a great way to talk to 2,100 people. Very responsive. I find a lot of surveyors putting questions up on there, asking for help and advice. And you've now got that network where people can chip in and say, yeah, I've done that job. I know what you're faced with. Here's my thoughts on it. So do use that. Again, you don't have to remember, I'm very, very happy just to embrace the wider shipping world and people who engage with surveyors as well as surveyors. We do have a closed discussion group. If you want to be part of that, you need to send me a request and we'll let you in. I don't know if you've ever looked at our YouTube channel. We've now made 130 videos. After yesterday, 137 videos. After today, 144 videos, or whatever it is. There's a shed load of content there. We've recorded things in Baltimore. We've recorded things in Singapore last year. We've recorded things in Australia. We've been to the Small Craft Surveyors Forum in Southampton. Luke, Dredging Technology by Luke. So there you are. It's all online. Just go and Google IIMS if you want to go and have a look. Awful lot of content on there. Sounds that some of these videos have been watched 10 times. Some have been watched hundreds of times. But again, it's a huge resource there. And please do use it. It's for your benefit. One of the things I'm really keen on is to try and get some feedback and research on what we do as an organisation. You know, I work in that bubble with my colleagues in head office. Sometimes it's important to go out to that wider world. Some members are very happy to tell me what they think regularly, others we just don't hear from. So I released yesterday the first bit of significant research we've done for 4 years. If you've had it pop into your inbox through the news bulletin, please do take a minute to complete it. I had about 100 back yesterday online, which is fantastic. I'd like to hear from more. It's really just trying to say, of all the new initiatives we've been testing and trialling over the last couple of years, are you familiar with them? Clearly from what came into my inbox yesterday, some people aren't. That's fine. And as I say, we don't expect everyone to get involved with everything we do. But there's some very, very pleasing comments and 1 or 2 stinging criticisms, which I need to take notice of. And that's fine, because that helps us shape the organisation going forward. It's a membership organisation. It's your organisation. I'm there to make sure we drive it with Zuria's help and my colleagues' help in the right direction so that it fits. Only 15 questions. It'll take you probably 2 or 3 minutes to answer. It's all online. Tick, 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 tick. Give us some comments. And then I will publish those results in the September report magazine, which will go out on 1st of September. I just want to touch on training. We seem to have emerged, not by luck, by design really, as a leading training provider now. And conferences such as this gathering today and yesterday and so on. We have done a lot this year, an awful lot. First time for a long time we haven't run a London conference. We took a decision as a board that we wouldn't run a London conference this year. We will be running an event, a 4-day event, which will embrace CMID as well in London. I think we're probably going to settle on June, as we were debating the date, but I think probably early June is the date we'll go for next year. We have a large yacht and small craft working group, which is very, very active in the UK. Again, very happy for people from outside the UK to get involved with that, and they do. We've run 5 or 6 events in the spring of this year in the UK. We've had about 160 plus visitors who've come. Some of that's quite practical. We get under boats. We did a tonnage training day. That was really interesting. So really experienced surveyors came and did the tonnage training. And we split them into 2 groups. And they measured the same vessel. And you would not believe the variance that they got when we came back and compared notes. They were miles apart, which partly proves that the tonnage measurement is not necessarily the exact science. But it was a little concerning, and we had a long debate about why the differences were there. So that's good. Online delegates are now common. We're part of a group which involves RENA, Nautical Institute, IIMS, ourselves, and the YDSA. We run the Small Craft Surveyors Forum at SeaWork. If you don't know SeaWork, it's the world's largest workboat show, I think now. It might rival the one in America. But it's huge. That happens in Southampton in the summer every year, just on that. We have a slot in the afternoon. We run a series of presentations. We have about 80 people this year. It's the biggest crowd we've ever seen. Obviously, we're here in Singapore. We're out in India for a 1-day symposium in Mumbai. 10th of October. And then a crazy idea, and I'm happy to enact to it, the Marine Surveying Fest. The year march is the 6th and 7th of November, kind of supported by Zero Constellation. One of the things that I just find a little bit odd is everybody has a day, don't they? Fishwives have a day. Doctors have doctors' day. But we all have a day. Marine surveyors don't have a day. So we decided to create one. It's really just to create a little bit rah-rah, to get out there, tell the door, yeah, marine surveying is really important. So let's go and tell the world about it. So what we're going to do is a 24-hour online-only festival. And I'm going to be launching one presentation every hour on the hour for 24 hours. Okay, it's a bit of a gimmick. With one price, you pay one fee to join it online. We'll record the whole lot, so you get all of the content after the event. Probably going to charge that, so I think £100. Haven't decided that quite yet. Just composing speakers now. So obviously, with the clock being as it is, we'll have some speakers in UK time, some in UAE time, some in India time, some in Singapore time, some in Australia time zones, and some in America. So watch out for your invitation to join us. A bit of fun, but I hope there's a serious thing to underpin it. We've also got some more events for the Large and Small Craft Working Group. We do a big annual day in Portsmouth. That generates a lot of interest. We also go up to Scotland every year. We've got quite a few surveys in Scotland. I'm always happy to go up there. And we're running an event with the British Stainless Steel Association. Funny thing, corrosion, isn't it? I mean, we all need to know about corrosion. It's a dry old subject, but I got the British Stainless Steel Association to run an event in January in the UK. And about 70 people joined us. It was an extraordinary day, really, really fantastic. Decided to take that out to Amsterdam. And then we're off with our waterways group again to smack steel hulls, the narrow boats in Cheshire in October. So it gives you a flavour as to what's going on. I've touched a little bit on marketing promotions. I want to move on really, but that's where we spend our money now. It's all below the line. A lot of it goes into LinkedIn. It's become a really, really effective way of marketing. Essentially, we only pay per click. And what I didn't say earlier is when I see the leads coming in for membership, people have to put in their job title. And you look down the list, leads there, leads there, leads there, marine contractor, leads there, naval architect, leads there. So we're clearly targeting the right people. And even if we don't get them into membership, we can still group them together and we can do things with them. Just briefly onto some of the new developments and services. You may be aware we've produced a series of handy guides now. We've just published the 18th handy guide, which is on synthetic rigging. That was published on the 1st of July. Again, disruptive technology going on in that sector with small craft. We've launched these now in downloadable ebooks. They've been out about 6 or 8 weeks now. We've sold quite a lot actually in downloadable ebook format. Readily available through the website. We are working on another app, which is the Marine Surveyor Search app. It's a free benefit for all members. Will all be included on the app. It's not really designed to compete with the web. Obviously, there's a search engine on the web of all our other members, but the web is one version. For a lot of people now, they want an app that they can use it. And again, Ruchin and his team, Michelle, who was here yesterday, are in the final stages of finishing that app. I think we're going to go for launch date for the 1st of January. I'm actually quite excited about it. It's a very, very neat and I use the word sexy. I don't know if it's sexy, but it looks to me excellent. So final testing now. Then got to load all the content onto the data, and it simply means you can just on your smartphone search for a marine surveyor by category. What do you want that surveyor to do? I want to do a wood survey for me. Wood. Fine, click, there it is. We've got a list in your geographical area. Quite excited about that. Hope it's a valuable new member benefit for all of you. So watch the space. And the other thing was I published an article a month ago. One of our members got hit with a huge bill from, I think it was Getty. He downloaded inadvertently an image from the internet. Hey, we've all done that, haven't we? Used the image in his marketing brochure or something. Getty had spotted it, found it, and sent him a bill for $2,500. And there's nothing you can do. There is no defense. You've downloaded that image that is copyrighted illegally. Even unwittingly, you say, well, I didn't know. It doesn't matter. You've done it. So I thought about what we might be able to do to help. We launched yesterday a royalty-free photo bank. So 300 photos, all available to download. You can do what you like with them. They're free. bit heavy on yacht and small craft at the moment. We'll get some more commercial shipping photos in there soon, but it'll grow for 300 now, maybe 1,000 in a year's time. So you can crop them, you can resize them, you can use them in your brochures, your marketing material, on your websites, anything you want to do with it. So it's all there for you.
Where is it, Mike?
On the website.
Our website.
Yeah, so all of that on the website. Clicking under, it's under membership. Yeah. Downloadable free, it's downloadable copyright images. Click on that and you can choose any of them as often as you want. This is a password protected page. Just send the password out to everybody. The password is surveying, I think. Surveying with a capital S. We'll get you. I want to touch briefly on the overseas branches. Been a slightly less progressive year. We do have a number of branches around the world. Australia and New Zealand are currently dormant. We lost New Zealand partly just due to we couldn't get a committee to run it. And that is part of the problem. You're asking people to do these things in their own time and so on. Australia, there was some legislative changes. And we had to close the branch temporarily. Thought about whether or not we might reopen it as an Australia branch, or if we might enlarge it into a Southeast Asia branch. And that's my question really today, is to say to people, would you be supportive of running a Southeast Asia branch? I think I probably have somebody in Australia who would be happy to take the role of regional director, but it's form a committee, could be centred in Singapore. That would be the obvious place for me to have a central base. Meetings could be held around the region, connection using the Zoom technology that we use today. It's really a case of if it's members you think it has some value, then we will do it. If you don't think it has value, then we won't. And the idea of having a branch, quite simply, is that you have a kitty of money here, you can then run your own local training events. Surya, tell me a bit about UAE and how UAE runs its branch, because you have a lot of experience there.
Well, we use the IIMS as a vehicle to the local underwriters. Whenever we have our programs, we call them as speakers, or we kind of go out of our way to let any IIMS event be known to the local underwriting fraternity. Virtually all the time we have had either a correspondent manager or one of the team members come in, which means that surveyors would get drawn into the room just to rub shoulders socially with the underwriters or their potential employers. There's one thing in cold calling, they all know where to find them in the local market, but then when you meet them over a drink or just when they're around, there's a reinforcement that the particular individual or that particular insurance company is interested in qualified marine surveyors in the region, which is what IIMS stands for. So they become a nice magnetic pull to the Institute's events. Obviously, the office bearers have a bit of a pride in organizing one of these. They get noticed a little better. They like and get motivated to work. We all have numbers of these guys on our phones. And I have been mentioning this enough times with the Institute conferences as well. We need employers of our fraternity to be speaking to us rather than us speaking. So this has very fundamentally worked in the positive, and that's kept the branch going. And because of the Institute events, the surveyors themselves don't mind sponsoring one of the events or be seen supporting members and things. This year we started an initiative of annual sponsorship. So there are like 4 or 5 surveying firms. Their support membership logo comes in on every event that rolls out in the local branch this year. So we're going to have one on the 9th of August. It's on When Things Go Bang. The speaker is the managing partner of Burgoyne's. He's going to talk about coal and sodium hypochlorite explosions and things like that. So it's really high caliber stuff. And then the second speaker is talking on soft skills on making wills, completely outside the box. So things like these, just to keep mixing and merging. But the committee is extremely rich with people volunteering to work. And that's my perspective of saying, if we create the value for the committee to be there and be seen doing something credible in the eyes of people who pull out. So in my view, that has worked, and the committee is along with the idea and has been consistently so since 2009.
So my question is, quite simply then, if you're based in the Southeast Asia region, would you like to have a branch? So hands. Anybody in favour? Nobody in favour.
Yeah, we'll put up hand then. I'll put up your hand then. Southeast Asia. But yes, there you go.
Okay, so there's a couple, there's 3, 4. Okay.
How many members are there amongst us?
Well, interesting enough, I did look at what we have in the whole Southeast Asia area. There's about 125, 130 members. It's quite a big group of people, and I think you could rotate things around the various different parts of the region. As I say, we have the Zoom technology now, so people connect in and so on. Perhaps let me just explore it further. We need to talk to people in the area, but I'd like to do it. I think it'd be a positive thing.
I think the biggest problem is much more people come. I think the biggest problem will be to find people to drive it, to spend their time on
that.
It.
Absolutely
That's
the biggest problem.
I think the interest is not a problem. It's to find the people.
I'll tell you, you don't need many people for that. You literally need 1 or 2 motivators and people who gather others and carry it. I mean, I was an in-country rep, but 2009 when we set up the branch, we were 3 people who decided to be the committee members. And 2 of those have already been branch manager, branch chairman, and are still on the board, on the committee, just putting their little mentorship in my 2 years of chairmanship. This is what I did. So literally, it is 1 or 2 interested people, and then you go around. You all have surveyors whom we get along with, and we don't get along with, or we would rather not get along with, whether they're IIMS members or not. And we've got a bylaw for the branch, and we have our own bank account, we have our own self-sustained financial model, and the headquarters gives us 50% of the members' dues which are collected within the thing. So that keeps us financially buoyant, and it's enough to carry on, and you really don't need to do many, 3 or 4 events a year. This evening conferences, drinks and snacks, it's enough.
I'd like to explore it further. So if you're in Southeast Asia, watch an email coming out over the next few weeks. Let's see if there's an appetite.
It is a small thing, but it's just geographically, Australia is not Southeast Asia.
Yeah, well, you might be right. You might be right. But I don't know. You see, I tried to put Australia and New Zealand together. No, they don't want to be together. Australia and New Zealand are deeply divided as 2 countries. It seems sensible maybe to try and wrap them in. I know it's a little bit further, but we'll put it out to the members and see what they say. Okay, thank you for your input on that. Conscious of time, I thought I'd struggle to fill an hour, but I'm hitting time. Let me just touch very briefly on some of the other things that we do get involved in. Some big stuff going on here. Something called the MCA's Technical Interpretation Forum, the TIF. High-grade stuff. We have 2 seats on that table. John Heath and Fraser Noble both represent IIMS on that. They've had their first meeting. This is a new initiative, and they're looking at literally how we reach some kind of common interpretation on some of the things that are published, because they're open to interpretation sometimes. That's an important piece of work. I've touched on the professional standards working group which I'm driving. We have literally just in the last couple of weeks been told we have some government funding. We being a cooperative organisation in the UK to fund an apprenticeship scheme in marine surveying. Now, let's be clear what that is. This is not about creating a load of 22-year-old apprentices who know nothing. This is about people who are coming into this further down in their career, maybe it's a certain career choice for them, who want to move into this sphere. And it's been quite an interesting process. I think our role probably is as the provider of the training material for the apprentices. I think that's where we're going to fit into this. We're not in a position to employ people. The MCA, however, who also have a seat at that table, are interested in employing apprentices. And of course, there aren't many big marine surveying firms who employ apprentices, but it's an interesting thing to watch this space. and small craft surveyors forum I've touched on. We play a leading role in that in the UK. I talked yesterday a lot about the Marine Surveying Academy, so my apologies if I skip through these slides quite quickly. Those of you who weren't here yesterday, Hilary heads it up for me, Director of MSA and Business Development Manager. Many of you will know now if you're involved in the ECMID ABI scheme. She runs the scheme, assisted by Sharon. 2017 was a good year for the team. We've built a very, very solid base with that business now, and it means we can keep all of our non-membership activity, our outside commercial activity, run through the MSA. Solutions for niche marine sectors is what I call it. And all the last 2 days talking about ECMID, very, very important to us. The RMCI and ERMI, a little bit more on those. Yeah, I'm skipping through this quite quickly. The whole ECMID ABI scheme, to manage and run a third-party accreditation scheme for IMCA, those who are auditing and inspecting offshore vessels. 3 years old now, over 500 inspectors have applied. Some have failed. I gave an example yesterday, which I won't repeat today, but people who do not have the competency to do this work do not get the badge. It's transparent and it's open. We do have, I think it's 437 now, I think it is, who actually have been accredited. We've run something like 32, 33 training courses around the world. You have to do the one-day training course as part of your accreditation process. We've run 3 already this year, and we've got a 4th, as we said, which is just done this week. We've got 3 more coming up in the second half of this year. And the one thing I said yesterday, and I say again today, which I'm really proud of, is that MSA and our work on this ECMID scheme has helped to regulate a sector that was previously a bit dirty and a bit messy. People are now reasonably assured someone getting on board that vessel is carrying that badge and is competent to do the work. Very briefly on the RMCI again, I spoke about this yesterday. We have 100 of these guys registered marine coatings inspectors. These are people who are looking at the super yacht coating systems, which can be anything up to 14 coats of paint now, really complicated system. And had to upskill. The industry told us these people need to be upskilled because 50% of the boats coming out of the yards were subject to litigation claim because of paint. We have next year is a big year for us because it'll be the 5th year since we started the program. We need to take people through the re-accreditation process. We need some technological developments in that time, and we need to reflect that. Our next course is in France, which we're running next month in September. And I think most exciting of the lot is RMCI is now named specifically a new ISO standard as an acceptable level. So we're quite heartened by that. ERMI, as I said yesterday, and again I repeat today, a pretty dormant sector. These are people inspecting corrosion in subsea pipes, very niche, very specialist, and that market took a bit of a bang when the oil price went down. Coming back now, again, we're just starting in a 5-year renewal process, and we are looking to roll this out now with new material. I'm talking to the guy who developed the original program 5 years ago. I hope we will be bringing out a revised standard probably in the next 3 to 6 months. Some of the things that Hilary and I debate through the MSA that we are quite interested in. It's a qualification standard for riggers. There doesn't seem to be anything internationally. Should there be something? The MCA say in their documentation that your rig and mast should be inspected annually by a competent person. Nowhere does it describe what a competent person is. Many riggers have done that job for years and years and years. They are qualified through experience. But we wonder whether or not there should be an internationally recognised standard. Discussing it. Hazmat recognition scheme. That's only on there because somebody in India said to me, you should be running a hazmat scheme to recognise people getting on board vessels to do hazmat inspections. It's not something I know about, but we are looking at that. Touched on yesterday about the IMCA DP accreditation scheme. We've yet to pitch for that, but I'd be quite disappointed if on the basis of the work we've done on the ECMID scheme, they did give us the opportunity to pitch, not indeed win that opportunity. The RMCI, what we found since we're doing that program is there is a lower level requirement. So these are people who are maybe paint managers within super yacht yards and refit yards who don't need that top level skill that the RMCI guys have, but need a second tier level of knowledge. And we've developed a program. I think we're going to run first test course probably in the next 6 to 8 weeks, perhaps out in Parliament, we're not sure. Warranty surveyors, it's a difficult one, warranty surveyors. I know NAMS were having a look at a warranty surveyor scheme. That didn't go anywhere. It's still something we should look at. Tom, we talked about rig moving course. We've yet to get it off the ground, but we're happy to revisit that. And I talked about the coding surveyors, and we need to have some kind of recognition. And finally, the one I really want to just touch on is the Surveying Practitioner Rotation Scheme. I brought this to the AGM 6 weeks ago, and I said, is there an appetite for IIMS to develop an international standard, which is a higher tier membership, which simply accredits people to Surveying Practitioner? I like the word practitioner. In the UK, we have general practitioners who are doctors. Practitioners, you're professionals, you're working at that level. Why should you be treated any differently? And we're right at the early stages of this. I'm trying to put together a working group now. We can look at this and try and find how we might develop something. So watch this space, because I think that's a big bit of business. There we are. We had all approved that. We had one abstention, nobody against. So that's business really nice. Very briefly, I just want to recognise these guys. We don't create many honorary fellowships. It's quite rare. We've created a few here this year. John Heath, Technical Director, very experienced surveyor based in the UK. Milind, some of you might know Milind quite well now. He was our regional director in India for a number of years. Captain John Noble is my boss, technically, works with Zarir as well. Your mentor.
Yes.
John Noble is Zarir's mentor, very experienced guy. Whenever there's an accident in the UK or an incident, a ship goes down or something, John Noble's always on the news. He's the BBC's go-to man. And you'll see him cropping up to talk about disasters. He knows a lot of stuff. Parimal Bhattacharya out in India, and Tony Fernandez. I've met Tony, I've not met Parimal. Tony, I think, something of the gurus are, isn't he? He's an extraordinary character. And then briefly, we also made some fellowship awards. Peter Vallis, who's run the UAE branch as chairman for the past couple of years, been on the committee for a long time. Captain Eugene Curry, who's out in Ireland. Eugene's been a long-standing member of the Professional Assessment Committee. And a ship guy. James Wren, I referenced James earlier, our man out in America. He drives and runs the Baltimore conference that we do every year. And he's out talking to a lot of people in America on that behalf. John Walker, John's based in Palma, in Mallorca. He's very much helped me reactivate the Western Mediterranean training group. We go there every year now at the Harbour Super Yacht Show time, which is at the end of April. John helped me organise that. Captain Richard Dial, who we recognise for his work on the apps and so on, other services development. Captain Ian Coates, a name some of you might know, he is our lead tutor on the ECMID programme, so we recognise him as well. Thanks for your attention. Any questions? Just use the microphone so the online guys can hear you.
You said in your presentation that there are 1,000 members, 600 full members. Yeah. What's the demographics in the world? How many are in Europe? How many are in Asia, South America, North America? How is that spread?
Do you know, I don't know the answer to that. But I will take that as a question and come back to you. I would say probably 50% Europe and the UK, and probably 50% outside Europe and UK. But I'd like to just go check the numbers. I'll do that for you. Yeah.
And second thing I wanted to ask is how many are in commercial shipping and how many are in yachts and small craft?
That I do know. That's a 50-50 split. 50-50. Really is 50-50. In the UK, we're much more small craft orientated than big ship. See, this part of the world is much more big ship than small craft. If you look at where the small craft surveyors are, we've got 2 million boats in the UK. There's an awful lot of pleasure craft and small craft in the UK. We've a lot of small craft surveyors there. There are also clutches of small craft surveyors on the east coast of America, particularly. West coast of Canada, we have some small craft members. Australia, a lot of those are small craft guys. New Zealand, we've got some small craft surveyors. And then they're dotted around Europe. But the commercial ship guys, generally not in the UK. We have some, obviously, we have some UK-based commercial ship guys, but most of those would be overseas.
Thank you.
Right, okay. In which case, can I just say thank you very much? I'm here all day, so if you've got any other questions or want to have a chat with me privately, or by email at any time, I really do welcome feedback. People say that and I think they don't mean it. I do mean it. And if you ever want to bounce off me, CEO@IIMS.org.uk will find me. A lot of members communicate with me very regularly by email. Some I never hear from this time. I do like to hear from you. And if I can help, then that's what we're there to do. So thank you very much.